Good evening, good evening. I do love this fur coat. I look like a Turkish prince. It's very nice. I was in a antique shop and I was trying on clothes, and most of them were for women. I think this coat is for women too because it's small in certain areas where it would be small for a woman. And I'm trying this coat on. I'm looking in the mirror, and this guy walks past with his girlfriend, and he turns to his girlfriend and he goes, "That guy looks really good in that coat." And I was like, "Well, now I have to get it because he said I look really good." And then as I was checking out, another guy in a walker gave me a compliment with the coat. And so I got it. I got this coat. Now I'm a Turkish prince, and it was great. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about rudeness and to never be rude. You should never be. I'm gonna turn the fan on because it's California and I should not be wearing this coat. It is hot as hell. It is hot, even though it's okay. The cat's gonna shake the tripod. Okay. She's shaking it. Come here, princess. Cats are wonderful creatures. They're apex predators that just kind of roam around the house, do their shit. A lot of high energy. Kind of an inspiration at times. But you should never be rude. When I think of rudeness, there's absolutely no instance I can think of where rudeness is justified. You can be firm, you can be aggressive, but never rude. I've been firm and aggressive many times. But rudeness is something different. It's kind of this passive aggressive angst. It's sort of this unjustifiable way of speaking or beating down on someone. And it's very adolescent. You see rudeness with adolescents, with preteens. It's a childish way of behaving that completely unjustified. And it seems like today it is more rampant. There's almost a sort of a resentment from the younger generation to the older generations where rudeness becomes this thing that, it's just part of a whole generation. And it's not. It's extremely, unattractive, especially as you go about life. I don't see it ever working to your favor. People will they won't appreciate you. And especially I see adults, these are adults, and they just kind of have continued that adolescent rudeness to their parents or to their grandparents. And I'm just like, what are you doing? These are your elders, and you still think you can speak to them in such a way that is just completely abhorrent to do so. It's uncultured. It comes across as like you're spoiled and you have no gratitude for anything in life. Your parents took care of you. Yeah, they probably fucked up a little bit along the way. Your grandparents, passed down wisdom towards you. I mean, unless they didn't, right? But you should treat them with respect. You may disagree, but you can still respectfully disagree. There's no reason to be rude. But in the instances where I see rudeness, there's usually no disagreement. It's just rudeness for the sake of they've prejudged their character based on the evidence that they know, and it's just kind of created a persona of rudeness, and you should never be rude. But I cannot. Please enlighten me if there's an instance where rudeness is justifiable. Now, with firmness and showing aggression, and at times showing anger, because anger is one of those emotions where, you should limit it. You should not be angry. You should not go through these, mood swings of anger, nor should you express anger, especially in violent ways. But anger is an emotion of humanity, and sometimes showing anger is the only way to get through your point. But it should always be done in a firmness and aggression and a directness of things. It shouldn't be done through a means of being rude, of coming across just you look like a child. Like I don't know what else to say. It's immature. You look like a child. Like even adults who are in their 50s or 40s, and I observe them just being like rude to their parent, and okay, they clearly have unresolved issues with their parent, but you should not be doing. You make people uncomfortable when you do it in front of them, and they're not part of the family, or even if they are part of the family. You should never be rude to your parent. There's other ways to, but especially in front of people. Especially in front of people, you should not be rude to your parent. It is because it's rude to the person that's there. It's just rude to them. It's a waste of time. And I've seen it so much, and it's you look immature, like you're 40 years old, 50 years old, and you're being rude to your parent who's like in their 70s or 80s, and it looks so immature and childish. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why people choose to consistently persist in that behavior. It doesn't make any sense. And it's hard to wrap my head around it. And a child will, especially if they're having problems with the parent, they'll snap back in a way that becomes obvious. It kind of displays all your problems to the world, and it's because children don't have that filter. They can't control it. And it looks like today, and probably all throughout history, adults can't control it either, apparently. Because it's kind of like when you're with your parent, you morph into that childlike state. And that's kind of why you need to learn to, as you get older, detach from your parents and not rely on them so much, so you could develop as a person. And that brings about a whole other wave of issues, because as the economy gets worse, people can't move out of their parents' house, and so they can't grow in that way, and so maturity takes longer. Whereas back in the day, you kind of just were thrown to the wolves if you came from a certain culture. So, yeah, rudeness is it is something that needs to be worked on if you have these tendencies, and you need to be mindful of it and be like, whoa, I'm being rude right now. How can I move away from this? How can I resolve this issue? So yeah, those are just my thoughts on rudeness and my observations on things. And yeah, don't be rude to strangers. Don't be rude in front of strangers, and don't be rude to your family members. You'll probably be rude to your family members the most, but being rude to strangers, I didn't even address that. That is no, that's not okay. If you don't like somebody, don't talk to them. And if you're forced to talk to them, you just show no emotion. Like, there's no reason to be rude to somebody and say something completely off brand. Yeah. I feel like I don't have to really explain that. You get what I mean. So yeah, those are my thoughts on rudeness. Get yourself a Turkish coat and never be rude.